Hey, everybody, and thank you for joining us. This is our second version of we're trying this again with LinkedIn Live. I think we were successful last time with a friend of Dan's, Milan, the CEO of Otter, and now we're honored to have Dan with us. But my name is Zach Posner. I'm a co-founder at the LegalTech Fund, and I think I'm excited to learn more about Dan, although I know him pretty well, and I'm excited to hear what he's been up to recently. But Dan, thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks, Zach, for having me. It's always a good time, and I really enjoyed the session last week. I hope to try to be half as interesting as Juan was. So,
Awesome. I guess on that note, we're going to start with something interesting. What's a fun fact that folks don't know about you?
oh yeah, probably most people don't know that I build a lot of things. At one point I built a 61-foot water slide in my backyard. I built in a different house. I built a 150-yard zip line. I've remodeled a couple kitchens. I just built a new island for our kitchen here.
A 61-foot waterfall. What did that look like?
So that involves engineering and working with a company that builds commercial water slides and getting fiberglass sections shipped to my house. So a truck came in with a bunch of fiberglass sections that all get bolted together and put on concrete pedestals. And yeah,
What? How did you get rid of that, or you sold the house with it?
no, I sold the house with it.
Okay, I can
It was
just
a
imagine.
feature.
That's exactly you turn these things. Um, so I guess if you'd play off of that for a second, if you weren't in the legal tech industry, what industry would you be in?
That's it. If I was playing off that, I would say maybe I would be in construction. Although the construction industry is one of those things that I do think is in need of renovation and innovation, if you will. Too many houses are still built with sticks and stones, old fashioned. I've been following the 3D printed house movement and stuff, and I'm hoping for something better in the future.
It's the 3D. It's pretty awesome. Some of the stuff and the concrete and the
Yep.
what's being happening on that side of the world. And I guess outside of work, what's one thing you can't live without?
Outside of work, what can't I live without? Well, obviously my wife and family, but the I would say in terms of like things that I do, I would say I do a lot of board gaming and that sort of thing. So I like strategy games a lot. So
Awesome. All right, on to the fun stuff. So
yeah.
give us some backstory on ECFX. How did it come to be? I know you've known your co-founder for a long time, but yeah, give us all a little bit of backstory there.
Yeah, so well, I've been in the legal tech industry for let's call it 25 years, maybe closer to 30. I guess it'll be 30 years in 2 years from now, so 28 years. And when I started in the industry, all court documents were filed by paper. In fact, I started in the business as a court runner at the age of 16 because, well, I could drive a car and therefore was clearly qualified to run down to a courthouse and get documents stamped. And so it was all paper. And then, of course, we started to move to electronic court filing. But actually, this may surprise a lot of people. It wasn't until about 5 or 6 years ago that the majority of courts in the US started to accept electronic court filing. And with that, the processes inside the law firms had not yet adopted or kept up with it. So they still dealt with these documents, and in many cases, still deal with these documents much the same way people deal with paper documents in terms of the process, the workflow, et cetera, et cetera. So I saw an opportunity to automate that, make it faster. Sorry, I'm on the tail end of a goal here.
You got it. I was gonna say grab some water if you want it. So, if, in case people are wondering if this is really live, it's
Yeah, it is very live.
this is our, this is, this is our test. It really is live. So, what type of volume? If you fast forward to now for a second,
Yep.
what type of volume are you guys processing? Like what has this turned into? I know you're dealing with lots of states, lots of jurisdictions, lots of courts. Like if you give us some like high level numbers.
We do almost 3 million emails a month.
3 million emails a month. That's
Yeah.
pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And go a little bit more into what the product does, how it helps people. And again, take more water if you need it.
Yeah, no, it's it's all good. Zach, I did warn you ahead of time that I was coming off a cold here. Um, so um, yeah, so basically the process today is the emails come in, and without our software, a human has to click on a link, log into a court website, download those documents. It could be a motion for summary judgment with 100 exhibits. That takes time, right? We simply automate that and do that in seconds. We have had people say, "Your product has saved my life. It's made my job better." Um, a lot of satisfaction coming from just simply automating a process that's manual and mundane.
And and this problem exists because there's so many different systems out there because different core, everybody like go a little bit more into the problem and because this is a bigger problem, this is a bigger challenge within legal. And I think this affects, this is much bigger, and this may even affect the concepts of like access to legal services because you have, because of some of these barriers into, into the system, they kind of, I know you're also powering some tech companies because these, this friction hurts people, it hurts folks from building optimal apps, from being able to do their job in multiple places, et cetera.
Yeah, so our court system is very balkanized, if you will. Each and every court has their own system. Not necessarily every courthouse. It depends on where the money is or the budget. Some states have a statewide system, like New York, New Jersey. Other states have left it to multiple vendors. California is a terrible example. They have hundreds of vendors in California. And so, as a result, each time you interact with a different court, the system's different. The way in which you file the document is different. The way in which the document is received is different. And so, if you practice in multiple jurisdictions, it gets to be a pain. The data, like where the case name is in a different location in one email than it is in another email. So, we had one partner at Shift who said, "This is a game changer. This changed my life because I always spent time trying just to find out what case is this for and where is the information I'm looking for." And by standardizing that, presenting it in a unified way, already downloading the documents, distributing them automatically, being super consistent about it, it is much simpler to practice in different courts.
I mean, you're changing people's jobs. I mean, this is a significant time saver, correct?
Oh, massive. In fact, we did a case study with Dentons where at the time we did the case study, which was about a year ago now, they'd already saved 19,000 man hours in labor. So, yeah.
That is that is absolutely so. So is that how firms think about this? Is just saying, hey, this is just not the work that we want people to be doing. If
That,
possible, we
there
want
are,
them. Yeah.
yeah, I would say a majority of clients, but there's another benefit that also drives adoption. So really there are two things that drive adoption of our software. The one you're mentioning is the most obvious, the ROI, the human labor savings, and also the client satisfaction. I have some stories about that. But the other thing that drives adoption is risk. So the other thing that our software does is we watch everything that comes in at the exchange level from all the courts. And so if you've got a partner who's hiking in the Himalayas, having a great vacation, they're not forwarding their emails to the admins and to the paralegals who need to see them while they're on vacation. We
Yeah.
pick those up and send them to them automatically so nothing is missed, right? So there's a huge risk management component that the GCs at the law firms love. It's that they're able to sleep at night knowing that everything will be captured.
Uh, what are uh, what are some of your bigger challenges as a company? Like, what do you think about that? Like, or what? I mean, obviously, you guys are growing at an amazing rate, but like, what are some of the bigger things that keep you up? Is it at night?
It is
Besides,
it's the
besides your
ever
cough.
changing environment of yeah. Besides my cough,
Yeah.
it is the changing court environment. So I'll give you a very relatively recent example. New Jersey has a law that gives the public right to access the court documents, right? However, the New Jersey IT department that runs the court website doesn't want automated processes accessing the website. So they put a barrier up to make it very hard to automate the getting of the data, even though we have a legal right to it. So we had to overcome that challenge by changing our software to meet their change, right? It's, it's a little bit like an escalating, um, it can be like an escalating battle of the bots, if you will, right? And while there is a legal right, the IT department doesn't care about that. They're focused more on security, and they don't want to get hacked. And we get that. No one wants to hack them, right? But yeah.
And do you so with constant things like that popping up, like, do you think that the future becomes like simpler to do? I mean, do you think that like do you think it becomes easier in the future to do this, or do you think that no, these barriers and the way that New Jersey does things or California does things kind of just continues to uh, proceed
So
as
the
is?
more modern courts are adopting true APIs, and that's fantastic. We love the courts that are going to the API model,
Yeah.
where they're offering you a way to access it that's automated and makes sense. So
So guys, so you are seeing improvement. It's becoming a little bit not easier, but
it is becoming easier,
yeah,
but it will take time. A lot of courts, like New York, has been talking about an API for 5 years now, but they still haven't developed it. But they know they want to do it. They are going directionally correct, but they need to make it. They need to get the budget for it. They need to get it done. Um, there's the patent and trademark system has an API. So there are those that have built them out, which is what we like the best, of course.
and I'm just like, over time, where do you see this going, or is there just like so much ahead of you that you just want to get this into the hands of more clients?
We want to cover more. So we're covering now the ITC. We're going on to other trade commissions. We do FINRA, regulatory agencies, if you will. Right. So there are tons of regulatory agencies. There's also workers' comp courts. There is the immigration is looking to automate. So there's 6 different automated immigration systems. Um, so as we look at this and we think of anywhere that you're dealing with an agency or an external company that sends you emails in a specific format where you have to log in and get documents, we can
Yeah.
automate
Okay. What's what's like the biggest learning through the journey?
that. The biggest learning through the journey is everything always takes longer than you think it will. But maybe that's the learning of life, right?
Yeah. And what type of if there's potential customers watching out there, like what types of folks should be calling you?
People who get a lot of notices. So that includes people who do litigation. It can be mass torts. It can be bankruptcy. It can be people who are dealing with the difficult courts like the ITC and others. So
Awesome. Anything else you want folks to know?
yeah.
Um,
Well, there's a lot to know, but Zach, what I'm more interested in hearing about is what are you seeing? One of the things that we did is we've adopted AI in our product, right? So now we're
yep.
extracting data out of the documents and we're extracting titles, and we're going to start classifying the documents into different categories to help people put them in different folders. What are you seeing out there in the market in terms of adoption around AI?
We're seeing that companies like yours are perfectly, and maybe even you guys even more perfectly, if a lot of your stuff is public documents. um, so I think that we're seeing, I said that because there's a lot of AI first companies coming out. We're coming out with some market maps next week, and I think that we did this again. We had some market maps on Gen AI companies, and I want to say we had like 80 companies on it in our last one. This one we're tracking like 325 companies. So we're seeing a lot of people coming out with and using it in a lot of different applications. The ones that we're seeing with commercial traction are the companies that are using it for the like to add 5%, 10% to their current product offering, almost kind of like what you just
Yeah.
described. We're not seeing much that's being relied on in a meaningful way that's AI first, especially from the biggest law firms. And I think that there's like different sets of barriers to different sets of customers adopting technology, where I think we are seeing some great activity of smaller law firms, But some of the bigger ones, there's some barriers that they're really thinking about, that their clients have extra concerns about, privacy, confidentiality, all of that, and then the hallucination concept. So all of these things are still prevalent. But so I think that from a company perspective, we're seeing lots of people like you guys. Like I think of you as, hey, you're fixing a lot of broken workflows. And then if you can use AI to accelerate that, all the better, and
Right.
so versus, hey, we want the AI to do something out of the box and think like a human and replicate a human. And that stuff we're just not seeing ready yet, but we are seeing more and more entrepreneurs than we've ever seen. I have to go back, but I'm guessing that we're at least seeing 2 to 3 times the amount of quantity of companies that are launching. And a lot of it is folks outside the industry that say, AI is the legal industry is a logical place for people to say AI should work. So they just say, oh, we want to try this. But we're also not seeing a ton with meaningful adoption.
Yeah, I would be, well, Zach, you've known me long enough to know that I'm fairly conservative about a lot of things. And I would be very conservative about a lot of these companies that are coming in with crazy valuations and crazy dreams of changing the way people practice law. My experience tells me it doesn't happen very quickly.
My favorite line is, I think it's a Bill Gates quote. People overestimate what happens in one year, they underestimate what happens in 10.
Right.
So, and I think that's exactly where we are here. But a lot of people are saying, nope, it's here right now, it's ready to go. And we're just not seeing the applications that are, and yes, some of the technology looks amazing, and then you overlay that with distribution, and very few people are, they may be having some pilots, some experiments, but actually building meaningful businesses, not yet. Um, but I think that comes, but I also think there's you know, people ask us, what's it like to sit in the middle of this vertical that AI is so hot around it? And I'm like, it's great, but that's not necessarily going to solve the challenge. Like there's still a whole cohort of workflow challenges that need to be solved first, and
Right.
that need to be like correct, like your guys' stuff does. And then sure, layer on some AI to help. But so yeah,
Yeah, you're right. I mean, what we're doing is we're extracting data out of documents. We're not trying to create anything. We're
yes,
not trying to say but we're trying to get meaningful information, like who are the parties here, maybe some meaningful dates. Like here's when the deposition is supposed to happen, so that a human doesn't have to go and put it on the calendar. That's where we're going with it. Kind of the I don't think low hanging fruit is the right thing. I would describe it as we're looking for things where it's a known and definable problem that we're solving, as opposed to like conceptually trying to write a brief from scratch.
right. And the flip side, the writing is, we're seeing a lot of great applications, and but like the things like summarization, like we
Yep.
think that's at like 99 and a death. Like we think it's spectacular. Translation, again,
Yep.
when you have the known construct, we
Right.
think it's very good. It's the open-ended stuff. So we couldn't agree with you and that's why like your application seems perfect for where things are now.
Yeah, summarization is a good example. Yeah, I'm sure we're going to be getting then requests to summarize the document. Here it is. I got a 20-page pleading in front of me. What is it? What's the argument? What is it trying to accomplish? So,
Yeah. And at the
yeah.
end of the day, you're while I know it seems like you deal with this vast quantity of different documents, it is finite to some extent, right?
Right.
There's a number of courts you guys are, you see the same thing over the same format over and over again. So I feel like you guys are you're the company that bridges that Bill Gates quote from like the 1 year to the 10 year. Like you're the one that should be able to have an amazing year 2 through year 9.
So far, things are going well, and our
Yeah.
clients are happy. I was going to tell you a story. See, this is where we're talking about automation and stuff. And we one of our clients happens to be the California Department of Justice, and
Big one.
great people to work with, fantastic. And we'd been talking to them for years, and to be frank, their philosophy was we could hire people to do this work, and it's good. It's a good entry level job, et cetera, et cetera. Good way to get people trained on this stuff. The problem they had was turnover on that. right? Because even though it's an entry level job and it's something that people can do, it's not a job that people enjoy doing,
Yeah.
right? And so by automating it and being able to deliver the stuff to the attorneys automatically, we think we're going to make a lot of people's lives happier. Because ultimately, it's like, yes, we can hire people to do, to do things manually. If our goal is to be about, trying just to give people work to do, but if
Yeah.
that work isn't adding value, that because you can automate it,
Well, the,
yeah,
yeah, and another the automation stuff, it scares people. Hey, the jobs are going, but like it. The example that I think about a lot is like ATM machines.
yeah,
Invented in the late '70s, and when they were invented, the headline said, "This is going to be the end of the local bank branch." And what happened from the '70s till basically today is your branches have probably gone up directionally 20-fold. Now, there may not be as many bank tellers, but that enabled the bank to offer new services. And every bank you walk into has business loan, commercial, like, there's many more options than there used to be for who you can deal with at a local bank branch. So I look at a lot of this automation in the same capacity. Like it's not, and all those concepts that you brought up, like the continuity of folks and training them and doing like all of these things are stuff that, tech can help with and people can work on kind of the next level types of challenges and things that law firms will offer.
and that's where that's where companies, not companies, funds like yours come into play to help enable us entrepreneurs to get the money in order to invest the capital, in order to automate those processes, in order to see return on investment. I mean, this is what I do love about entrepreneurship, is taking those ideas, seeing a problem, building a solution. Because as I mentioned at the beginning, I like building things
Yeah.
to solve a problem.
And I think now is the best time in the world to be an entrepreneur. There's more, even like, when you started, it was harder to get capital.
It was
And by the way, you for a lot of specific reasons, but one of them was you were in this vertical that most venture funds are scared of,
right.
which is kind of the origin stories of us. We said, hey, there's a need here, and if we can help and be specialized and focused, but just ignoring us for a minute, I mean, just as the world has progressed, it seems like it's just the best time ever to build a company. There's capital available, the cost to get a concept out there, especially with generative AI, like it's just becoming less and less. So I don't know how things, it feels like you had to do the hard work and
I think even before, like if I go back 20 years, I think it was even harder. But yeah, it was 5 years ago when we started the company. It was hard, and then COVID hit, and I got to tell you that things slowed down for us, and because everyone's trying to figure out how to get Zoom to work and everything else, and while some companies did really well, we were kind of in a niche where people are like, yeah, I need to deal with some other things before I get to you. And we made it through that. That was a tough, that 2020 was a very existential year for us as a company. But then 21 and 22 and every year since then has been fantastic. Um, but yeah, it was hard to raise capital. I had so many people say, well, how do you turn this into $1 billion business? I'm like, it's not, we're not going to be $1 billion business. And if you only need to invest in $1 billion businesses, that's not us. And a lot of capital wouldn't come our way for that very reason.
yeah, and we know the secret that you're really going to be a $2 billion business. Is why we're thrilled to have invested in you. Um, can you just tell one story in case there's entrepreneurs listening, and what we found with last week's or when we did with Milan Otter is a couple people, but we listened live, but we actually had thousands and thousands of views since then. So hopefully this will archive as well. But you did something that was really unique that a lot of entrepreneurs don't do. And I don't exactly know when we met, but we probably met in 19 or 20. And you then started putting me on your investor update list, even as a non-investor. And
Correct.
maybe can you just give a little bit of that philosophy? Because I think that, to play it out for everybody, like we eventually got enough of these and we called them up and said, hey, we need to invest, we need to be working together. And I
Yeah.
think that from an investor perspective, it's, Mark Suster at Upfront Ventures had a blog post once and he said, I meet you and you're a dot between like time and progress. I meet you again, you're another dot, and we want to invest by watching the line grow. And I think you
Right.
teed that up perfectly. I'm not sure what made you do that, but
So yeah, a lot of it goes to advice from mentors, but one of them was do a monthly update for friends and family potential investors, right? So we did a friends and family update every month religiously, where we would say, here are new clients we signed. Here's approximately the size of the business. You didn't give a lot of detailed financials, but gave a sense of the growth and where we were. And we just sent it every month so people could see the progress. And thankfully, we signed clients every month, and we grew every month. So that was a good part, right? And that allowed people to see what we were doing. We also said, hey, here's where we're being challenged, or we added this new state, or we, are having problems with this. If you know anyone who knows things about AWS, please let us know. That sort of stuff.
and did that stuff work? Like, did
Oh
you? I
yeah.
mean, obviously, like but I'm saying, and I'm curious what the size of that list was. Was this 5 people, 100, or
It was about, by the time we were done, it started out at about 17 or 18, and by the time we ended it, we did end it after our Series A.
yeah?
We were, I think, 118 people on that list.
And and then from the a lot of entrepreneurs, and I wrote something on LinkedIn last week, I believe, about this. And entrepreneurs are usually like holding that type of stuff so close to their vest. In my opinion, as being a former entrepreneur a couple of times, is like the opposite. It's like there's no secret sauce you have. You're just a team of smart people working your butt off to like help achieve your vision. And there's nothing so, and I'm curious, like your thoughts that, so, and I'm curious, like your thoughts that. I can't hear you, Dan.
Can't hear you, Dan.
Can you hear
Can
me?
you hear me?
Right? We
Right,
lost
we
Dan for
lost
a
Dan for
second,
a
but
second, but
I was
I
telling,
was telling,
promise you this is
promise you this
live.
is live.
All right. Am I back?
You're back.
All right. Yeah. So one of the fun things about this app, which only works on iPhones, not on my PC, is that apparently the Bluetooth was enabled, and I think my wife started the car. And anyway,
So I don't know if you heard
technology can
the I
be
don't know if you
fun.
heard the last question, but it was this construct of like sharing versus
Yeah.
keeping
So I
everything
so I
close.
believe I'm not. You can be only the paranoid survive, and I've met a lot of entrepreneurs who are in that camp, but I disagree. I'm fundamentally about being transparent, as you know, and about running a business based on the fact that, yeah, I can share this idea of what I just explained. We automate the processing of court notices. Here's how we do it. Generally, obviously, not the
Yeah.
source code, but um, it's not necessarily going to do anything except, yeah, maybe some people will want to compete with us or what have you. But at the end of the day, it's it's more advantageous to make people aware of what we do, how we're growing, what we're doing, than it is to hide it, because we get client interest, right? That helps grow. We get investor interest, right? All these people who need to be aware of what we're doing, because if I just keep it secret in my room, there'd be no company right now.
Yeah, and I think the thing people don't realize is people want to see a startup succeed and they want to help if they can in general. I'm sure
That's a
there's
good
some that
point.
don't, but like in general, who doesn't want to be a part of helping an entrepreneur and the early team kind of achieve their goals? All right, we are out of time, and I'm concerned that another car is going to drive by and pick up the Bluetooth. But Dan, I can't thank you enough, especially if you're a little bit under the weather, for joining us.
No problem, Zach. Anytime. I always enjoy our conversations, and thank you for taking the time to talk today.
If in the construct of transparency, you've been transparent today, and if people want to reach out to you, what's the best way to do it?
Yeah, the best way is through email, dan.oday, Oday, at goecfx.com.
All right. On that note, thanks everybody, and looking forward to the next one. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.